We are so pleased that many people have been joining us virtually over the last few meetings and in the budget forums that we've had over the last few weeks. We hope that will continue to be the case. If you need to let a friend know how to connect, they will find instructions at albanyschools.org/BOE. Also, I want to make sure everyone knows that our meetings are always recorded and the audio files are uploaded just a day or so after the meeting on our Board Docs platform. People who can't listen in right now can hear the whole meeting at their convenience. Meeting by web is part of our effort to ensure that our meetings remain accessible to the public while also protecting the health of our community and doing our part to reduce transmission of COVID-19. Normally, by law, we meet in person. But as a result of Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, we may now legally meet by video conference, and we plan to do that until further notice. For any members of the public joining from home, we will show the relevant slides and documents in the virtual meeting screen where you see the flag now, and you can also access them yourself at albanyschools.org/BOE, which allows you to control them on your own device. We invite those of you who choose to join us as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
and justice for
all.
And that, my friends, is why it's hard to play music over a Zoom meeting, because there is this odd lag that makes everything extremely difficult to do in unison. However, continuing on in our normal vein, in addition to the Pledge of Allegiance, we always focus our meeting by restating the mission of the City School District of Albany, which is to work in partnership with our diverse community to engage every learner in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. Superintendent Adams, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I do. Thank you so very much, President Savage and members of the board. These are difficult times for all of us here in Albany and across our country. The tragic death of Mr. George Floyd and the troubling events that have ensued locally and nationally have caused us to reflect on the many social issues that create inequities throughout our various systems. As an educational system, we have to remain focused not only on the academics, but also the social and emotional well-being of our students, our families, our teachers, support staff, and administrators. As a school district, we work very hard to address those inequities and remove the systemic barriers that create challenges for our students. Within our curriculum, we have embraced culturally responsive teaching and learning, equitable educational opportunities, and pathways for our students through advanced placement, IB, and the performing arts programs. We have looked at the integration of the 1619 Project, which examines the impact of slavery on our economy and our society. Over the past few years, we've looked at how we educate our students to advocate for themselves and ensuring that their voices are heard regarding the things that matter to them. We have at Pine Hills the Leader in Me model, which focuses not only on personal habits of success, but the traits of self-advocacy and voice. We have at the middle level and at the high school level, the student leadership of each school learning how to organize and speak out about the events and circumstances impacting their daily lives in a school setting. At this juncture, we have a solid foundation across the district for engaging our students in that meaningful conversation about how school reflects society and provide opportunities for students to navigate their learning environment, which leads us to our next steps. Our next steps will be to determine how we integrate social justice into the curriculum in order to further the critical thinking skills of our students. As educators, we are not teaching or telling our students what to think, but we are teaching them how to synthesize and evaluate information so that they are able to make informed decisions on their own. We want our students and families to know that we are here for them. If they need assistance, we ask that they reach out to a teacher school administrator, or district office so that we may assist with getting the wraparound services needed for success. Our Office of Pupil Personnel Services has also developed several resources this week to further assist our families in these difficult and unsettling times. These supports include our Community Resource Guide, which offers a wide range of resources at the city, county, and state levels. Our PPS team also shared guidance for all faculty and staff members throughout our daily update to help them in having those critical conversations about community violence, about social justice, and about resources that are available so that we can help our students express an interest in talking about these matters. Today, we also launched our CSDA information line, a resource for families and students who may need assistance with linkages to services. The CSDA information line phone number is 518-475-6130. That is 518-475-6130. It will be available from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. daily through Thursday, June 18th, the last day of our 2019-2020 school year. Pupil Personnel Services will receive phone calls and direct our families to the appropriate building level student support services personnel. These employees then will reach back to our families and offer support and connections to the services that may be available in our community. Please note that if you are calling with an emergency or an issue of immediate safety, do not call the information line, but instead call 911. These are just a few of the ways in which we are demonstrating to our students, families, and community that our entire school district is all in for Albany. Thank you, and that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Adams. We appreciate your report and all of the hard work of the City School District of Albany for the kids who are going through this extremely difficult time on many, many levels. Ms. Mann, I see you're unmuted. Did you have something to say?
Yes, hi, President Savage. I wanted to make I wanted to add a topic to the agenda that we can discuss after routine consent. That topic would be a budget vote process.
Terrific. I understand the motion. Is there a second on the motion? Mr. El-Manyawi seconds. Is there any discussion of this motion?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
I don't think I'm wondering if my colleague would mind actually moving item G rather than the whole budget conversation. We could just move item G up after routine consent.
My understanding of the motion was that it be a new item, not a change of an item, but a new item. Budget vote process to be added to the agenda, not one of the existing.
Understood. Okay, I recant then.
All right. Any other discussion of the motion? Ms.
Yes.
Smith?
Yes, unless Ms. Mann made an amendment. Is that possible?
Say
Are
again.
you proposing an amendment?
Rather than make an amendment, rather than to have a new topic, make the amendment or the motion to pull item G from the COVID-19 presentation to discuss now.
I see, which amounts to the same thing. You're just pulling not the whole COVID presentation, Ms. Smith, just that one piece, that final slide.
Yes.
Okay. I understand. So the motion, as I understand it, I guess we need to vote on the amendment. So the amendment to the motion, that, as I understand it, is to amend the agenda to move the last slide from the COVID presentation, is the slide having to do with the budget process, to immediately after routine consent. That is an amendment. We need to first vote on the amendment, which we just need a majority on. All in favor of the amendment to the motion? I see 6 hands. I see 7 hands. That all in favor of the amendment. Now, the motion, which is to add an item to the agenda, requires 5 out of 7 votes because that is our board policy that you need 5 out of 7 to amend the agenda after the beginning of the meeting. We have that policy so that the community can know that when we add something to the agenda after it's been publicly announced, that we're doing it with a preponderance of the board believing that that is the right course of action. And so I am now taking a vote on the amended motion, which is to move slide G from the COVID presentation to immediately following routine consent. Can I see a show of hands on that motion? And I see 7 hands, so we are all in favor. So I apologize to my community members if that's tricky to follow, but what we're going to do now is go, as we always do, to public comment, and then we will do routine consent. And then, unlike the agenda, which suggests we'll move on to policy, we're going to share some important information that we've recently learned about the vote process here in Albany, and we will discuss that and have some conversation about that. So let me find my official script about how we enter public comment. You will all be pleased to know, both in the meeting and listening virtually from home, that while we did get some public comment, it should not take an enormous amount of time tonight. We have 7 letters and 1 voicemail to read. So we always welcome input from our community about the decisions we're making. Usually this time in our meeting, we hear public comment from people who come specifically to our meetings to speak with us, and they can speak to us for up to 3 minutes on the topic of their choice. Of course, since we've been meeting virtually, we have not had a way for people to do that. So instead, we've been accepting comments by email to boe@albany.k12.ny.us, by phone to our dedicated voicemail line at 518-475-6016, or by regular mail, which you can send to 1 Academy Park, Albany, New York, 12207. Our contact information is also available on the district website at albanyschools.org/BOE. We are now going to hear the 1 voicemail that was left on the voicemail line. Mr. Baker?
Good afternoon. I just wanted to ask a question as to what the school district's interaction will be with the City of Albany Summer Youth Employment Program. I wanted to know if the schools will be open to that program, and if so, what precautions would be taken for the students who are participating as far as PPE. So if you could present that to the board, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are now going to move to read any emails we received at boe@albany.k12.ny.us. And we read all comments we received by 4 o'clock. And I believe Mr. El-Minyawi is going to go first. Oh, I forgot to say, if the author used a specific faculty member's name, we will be passing over that as we read. It is part of our core values that all of our staff deserve to have concerns about them addressed in private. Mr. El-Minyawi?
Thank you, President Savage. The first letter comes from Catherine Bamberger. It states, "We are presented with an opportunity to reimagine how we do nearly everything from business to healthcare and education as we seek to minimize the impacts of a global pandemic. After corresponding with dozens of parents of seniors, we very much appreciate the multitude of issues handled and decisions made, especially within the last 3 months. Our students have been focused on graduation from their earliest days. We could not have imagined a global pandemic would change how that milestone celebration would look. On behalf of our students, want to emphasize prioritization of an in-person graduation celebration as soon as possible within official guidelines. We were told the district was in communication with other area districts and coordinating on many different levels. We were told to be patient. We were told more information is coming and there are too many unknowns. We can see a lot of creative and different senior celebrations happening as well as within our own district as students move from elementary to middle to high. We always seem to be behind and settling for good enough rather than really focusing on what the students are telling us they want. A petition has been signed by over 1,000 people, including our students, requesting keeping in-person options at the forefront. We know the county is petitioning for potential in-person solutions. Our families want to be assured there is agreement and a plan to move forward with an in-person celebration as early as allowed. We want to know the virtual graduation will be focused on the students and their achievements and features more of them than is normally possible. This is an opportunity to do something special and memorable. If it must be different, let's be sure to make it different and better. Thank you. The next letter comes from Michelle Hewitt Taylor. It states, "Good evening. My name is Michelle Hewitt Taylor, parent to a Myers Middle School 8th grader and Toast kindergartner. I would like to commend all the teachers and staff for their hard work and support over the past few months. My questions are regarding support during the summer months. Will students have access to clever online programs such as Dreambox, Lexia, and etc.? These online programs have been very helpful, particularly for my 6-year-old daughter. Also, will the district provide resources in the event that summer school is not possible? Thank you for your time, Michelle Hewitt Taylor." The next letter comes from Mimi Morse. It states, "To whom it may concern, hello, my name is Mimi Morse, and I'm currently a senior at Albany High School. I began playing the viola in the orchestra in 3rd grade and have played every year since then. I hold incredibly fond memories of my little 3rd grade self learning how to read notes and use a bow with Mr. J. Playing in the orchestra has provided me with a group of close friends. I still play with some of the same kids I played with in elementary school. Playing in the orchestra has taught me to challenge myself, how to set goals, and how to practice to achieve those goals. I might not be the best player in the orchestra, but I am proud to say that I have been able to sit at first stand in my section in multiple concerts because of the hard work and practice I've put in and support I've gotten from my teacher and my peers. Orchestra has taught me patience and teamwork, and it has been an invaluable part of my education as a student in the Albany School District. My orchestra teachers have been the most important part of that experience. Without them, I would not have been able to learn music and all the important lessons that have helped me succeed in school. My high school orchestra teacher, in particular, have been huge pillars of support for me as I grow and get closer to moving out into the world. Not only have they given me the opportunity to learn music, but they have also given me space where I can be myself and where I can learn new things. I won't lie to you and say that this year especially hasn't been hard for the music department in terms of teacher turnover, but I'm hoping that next year will not be even harder for my underclassmen friends. Having music and art classes has also been a great way for me to express myself, and it has provided me with an outlet for my stress. Having core class after core class is stressful and tiring, but having a music or art class break up my schedule has been helpful because it's given me a break where instead of writing notes or listening to lectures, I can make something beautiful. With an art or music class, I have a break from my core classes while still being productive and learning new things. I can be in a social setting that relies on teamwork and communication as well as personal hard work and continuous practice. Core classes are valuable, but I would argue that music and art classes are just as valuable in teaching kids communication skills and work ethic. After reading all this, I'm sure you can guess what I'm trying to say, but I'll blatantly put it out there. I know that with COVID-19, the school budget will have to make cuts. I know the cuts are going to happen whether I write this email or not. I know that the music department will most likely have to cut programs. I'm writing this today in the hopes that what I have shared with you will make some sort of impact on what gets cut. Music education programs and teachers have played an important and constant role in my life since I was 8 years old. It's been 10 years since I started, and I still participate in the music department and take great joy in what I do there. I hope that third and fourth graders can have the same opportunities as I did. I hope that they will be able to have the music programs and the chance to love music just as much as I do. The music department and all those involved in it have been so important in my life and my educational experience, and I would be greatly saddened to see the department face serious cuts. I hope that the music department staff and programs are not too heavily hurt by budget cuts, and I hope they can continue providing support and a safe space and educational environment for students of all ages.
Was that your last one? Oh, go ahead.
It's not quite done yet. Give me one moment. It's a long one. Next paragraph. I know that my one email will not change the entire budget, but I sincerely hope that this email that contains only a fraction of my experiences and love for the music department will impress upon you the importance of having music in kids' and teens' education, so many other students have similar experiences like mine. And I hope that several future students will be able to have similar experiences as well. I hope the music department can continue to be sources of support, creativity, and joy like it has been me these past years. I hope that you will be able to keep third and fourth grade music programs, and I hope that you will be able to make fewer budget cuts for the music department overall. I apologize if this email is too long, improperly formatted, or repetitive, but I think it accurately expresses how important the music department is to me. I don't know if my email and the emails of my fellow students will make any impact regarding the budget cut, but I hope that by reading about our experiences and feelings, you will be able to understand how important music education, educators, and programs are to students. Thank you for your time. Mimi Morris. Okay, next up, I have Michelle Harmon. The letter states, Dear board members, I'm a social worker in the district who has lived in Albany for the past 30 years. My children attended the Albany City School District schools from kindergarten to high school. Graduation. I have been following the board meetings the past few weeks, and I'm very concerned about the multiple cuts to faculty and support staff who work directly with students. Teacher assistants, hall monitors, security staff, social workers, and behavioral specialists all work closely with students on a daily basis. They maintain relationships with hard-to-reach students and their families and eliminate barriers to participating in the educational process. I do not understand why so few administrative positions have been considered for elimination and or reduction. I believe cuts in administration would have less of a direct impact on students. I am worried about the negative impact of larger class sizes on all students. I was very surprised and disappointed that the Albany City School District Board accepted the budget as it was presented. I'm also bewildered that the district has not been more active in negotiating retirement incentives as a means of reducing the need for layoffs. This could potentially help some of our seasoned staff retire more easily and allow us to maintain staff who are at the bottom of the seniority list. I would think that retirement incentives would be welcomed at a time like this by both staff and the board and could result in more of a win-win outcome to these difficult financial times. Please don't allow the current budget to become a done deal, despite the fact that you have already approved the actual dollar amount. I think there are better ways to address the current financial crisis in this district. Thank you for your consideration. And that is the last letter I will be reading.
Ms. Mann, I think you had a couple you were going to read, and then that would be it for us for
I was
tonight.
working on taking myself off of mute. All right. Okay, so the first public comment is from community member, Ms. Linda Jackson Chalmers. And she writes, "Dear members of the City School District of Albany Board of Education, 3 years ago, this board made a major and calculated decision to hire a superintendent of schools from outside of our area, with the hope and expectation that she could infuse a new dynamic of leadership and direction for our district. Superintendent Quita Adams has done just that. She has demonstrated exemplary leadership and exceptional futuristic vision of what is needed and required to make an urban school district and its many-faceted student body excel in today's demanding times. As a former teacher, principal, and central administrator of the district, I am fully aware of the complicated dynamics that drive the development of a school budget. In good as well as difficult times, decisions must be made and defended that ultimately impact employees, programs, and students, while being unpopular with some segments of the district's constituency. It is really tough making these decisions, and I congratulate the board for voting to accept this year's austerity budget that will keep the local taxes within its 2% budget increase cap. I know this comes with some angst and pain. I understand from a variety of sources that certain employee units, as is typical, are advocating for their own members over others. This is so disheartening. What has made this district work and excel has been the collective effort of all units for the benefit of creating effective schools and successful students. Having voted to accept the budget proposal from the superintendent's team, now the hard part begins in supporting your decisions, however unpopular, with certain segments of the community. You have placed your support with district leadership. Be wary of inside detractors who choose to influence others in their realm and self-interest. As the district's HR administrator, there were many years where we had to make very unpopular decisions, from eliminating school nurse teachers and replacing them with registered nurses at a significantly lower salary, to eliminating 100% health insurance for hourly employees, mostly the beloved lunch ladies, to eliminating the title of subject supervisors. All decisions that impacted individuals and their employment status. Layoffs of teaching staff were especially painful. The point that I'm trying to emphasize is that we need strong leadership through the high and low times. You have it in Superintendent Adams. The board recognized this 3 years ago. She has a proven record within her relatively short time in Albany of making sound, key decisions of what's best for our children and families. Her leadership during this very difficult time of school closure, providing distant learning opportunities, and how we are providing healthy meals to our students are all emblematic of a skilled, highly effective leader. Please continue to support the superintendent in her efforts to deliver a sound budget that puts students first over the will of special interest groups. This is a vote of confidence for Superintendent Adams, her cabinet, and you, the board, for delivering a sound budget that is mindful of our taxpayers while still providing the needed services and high-quality educational programs for our students. Sincerely, Ms. Linda Jackson Chalmers, retired Assistant Superintendent of Schools for Human Resources and Community Relations, City School District of Albany, President of the African American Cultural Center of the Capital Region, Incorporated. All right, and I have another letter, but I'm going to turn. I have a fan on, and I feel like it's creating more noise. So let me just turn that off. All right, great. Okay, so the second public comment that I'm reading is from Daphne Amilcar Rodriguez. Ms. Amilcar Rodriguez writes, "Dear Board of Education, the City School District of Albany has seen growth, progress in student and parent satisfaction, and community collaborative partnerships over the past several years. During these trying times, creative measurements must be considered. Your responsibility and the responsibility of the superintendent are the most critical in ensuring a balanced budget. Thank you for the balanced approach to the various reductions across the instructional areas and the efforts made to schedule personnel such that the staffing reductions are the least intrusive. As a parent and constituent, it is imperative to continue to support the district efforts in sustaining quality staff. While the reductions are not popular, it is important to note that the reductions are necessary. As a community member, I am aware that our enrollment has dropped over time. No one wants these reductions. It is a shared responsibility. I appreciate your fiscal responsibility. What is the impact of a salary freeze? The city has taken a salary freeze to hold on to positions. I think the school district should think about creative solutions to address the needs of our students so our programs can be provided. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, Daphne Almacar Rodriguez, President, Omicron Epsilon Zeta Chapter, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority, Incorporated. Okay. My final public comment that I will be reading is submitted by Laura Travison. And she writes, good afternoon. Thank you for your willingness to sit on the Albany School District Board. These are unprecedented times that produce unprecedented challenges. I appreciate the difficulty the school district is facing alongside our municipal and state budgets. I have firsthand knowledge of the cuts that must be made to municipal budgets, and I do not expect that board to be able to make everyone happy. I am aware of the shortfalls upstream that will impact the school district's ability to run their programming downstream. I have 3 children who attend Albany Public Schools, and I am a stalwart booster for our public schools. I am myself an alumni of Ash, Hackett, and Albany High School. I'm writing to urge the board to vote on a budget that more equitably shares the burden of cost reduction among administration and teaching support staff. This is not only essential for the students and productive dissemination of the district's mission, it is imperative for morale. Additionally, I would like to encourage the board to explore other options to expand the budget. The taxpayer can't make up the entire state aid shortfall, but this doesn't mean they are entirely adverse to some increase to help expand the budget incrementally. I and many others are willing to phone bank for a budget that requests an increase to the public. Now that parents are more aware of what is at stake, I am sure motivation to rally has increased. It may seem that now more than ever, an increased burden to the public is unimaginable. I am encouraging you to challenge that assumption. Finally, the teachers union should be readdressed on the matters of pay freezes and other cost reduction strategies. Thank you, Laura Travison.
So in the normal fun things that we're doing here in the land of COVID-19, the garbage truck is outside my house right now, or possibly the recycling truck, I don't know. But if you hear a loud noise, that's what's happening in the background here. Thank you both for reading those comments. We will continue in our efforts to read all comments that we receive out loud as we go forward through our meetings in the future. We really do feel that it's important to hear from everyone. If you feel that we missed your voicemail or email, I don't think we missed any, but if we did, please let us know at boe@albany.k12.ny.us. What did I said it wrong. Sorry. You guys got it right. Somebody help me out. albany.k12.ny.us. Maybe I did do it right. In any case, that is the end of the public comment period, which brings us now to the part of our meeting we call routine consent. This is a very important part of the meeting because we adopt things that are important to the routine functioning of the school district, like contracts, personnel matters, and the like. We adopt them all as a group with no discussion so that we can use our meeting time efficiently. However, every board member reviews each item carefully and has the opportunity to set aside any item if they would like a separate conversation and a separate vote on that item. With that introduction, is there a motion to adopt the routine consent agenda? Motion by Ms. Smith, second. Ms. Krejci, are there any set-asides? I see no set-asides. All in favor of adopting the routine consent agenda in its entirety? That is unanimous. which now brings us to our new item, which will be slide G from the COVID presentation, which is the budget process. And Mrs. Adams, do you want to introduce the overall process and the new information?
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Madam President and members of the board. We do have some information that we need to share with regard to the voting process. As you know, that the budget vote is coming quickly. It is June 9th, and ballots have to be turned into Academy Park by 5 p.m. I'm going to ask that Mr. Baker please go to the detailed slide, if we can, that talks about the actual voting process. And so we can go through that to discuss what some of these concerns are. So many of our ballots have been mailed to our registered voters. And as the board, you may be aware that there was an article in the Times-Union that did address some complications with regard to NTS, which is our service provider for our ballots. They were responsible for sending out our ballots to our constituents. And so like many other districts, we are experiencing some challenges as well. And we had a number of our ballots that were returned to our office as undeliverable. A portion of the address was not on the actual envelope. And so as we work with NTS to sort out what is actually happening with the mailing, we are working to make sure that those ballots get to our families. And so there may be some additional delays. However, at this time, I'm going to ask that Mr. Chris Honeywell and that our board clerk, Tanya Bowie, they can assist with completing some of the information that you may need. So first, I'll turn it over to Mr. Honeywell.
Thank you, Superintendent Adams. As you stated, there was a delay in some of the mailings. The district is certainly working tirelessly to get those ballots in every voter's hand. And we just sort of want to remind voters that, and Tanya can explain the process, but if you do not receive a ballot by mail, there is a process by which you can request one from the district clerk. And even if you don't get your ballot soon enough to mail it back to the district, there are opportunities for the ballots to be delivered and dropped off in person to Academy Park. And I'll let Tanya elaborate on those two steps.
Good evening, everyone. As far as if someone does not receive their ballot in the mail, it's imperative that you give me a call. My number is 475-6015. I can confirm your registration status. If I can confirm your registration status, I can still issue a ballot in the mail, or you do have the opportunity to come down to the district office, which is located at 1 Academy Park, and you can receive your ballot from me in person. And even while you're here, you have the opportunity to take care of and fill out your ballot and return it to me right on the spot if you choose to.
So at this time, board members and Madam President, if there are any questions, we would be more than happy to entertain those questions with regard to our next steps.
So board colleagues, if you don't mind, I just want to ask one clarifying question to make sure that we have a sense of the scale of this potential addressing problem. How many round numbers, Tanya, you're not muted and I'm getting some feedback, thanks. Approximately how many returned mail pieces did we receive today? Now, I'm not asking about the ones that we have addressed. I'm asking how many in total did we receive back?
Approximately 200 to 300.
Okay. And to your best understanding, these were all ones that were misaddressed by NTS. You were able to resolve the vast majority of them by consulting the actual voter file?
I was able to reach out to the county to assist me with retrieving the missing information that was off the ballots for the majority of them, but not all of them.
I understand. Okay, so at this point, what we know is that we had a couple of hundred ballots that went out missing a piece of the information and were returned to us, and we were able to resolve many of them. And was this just at a couple of buildings, or was this widely distributed across the city?
There's a few of the buildings, apartment complexes where the information was missing. There is approximately 120 that were unresolved from today between two different buildings.
Okay, but it appears to be primarily impacting apartment buildings where the apartment was left off. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay, board colleagues, I'm going to ask again. I'm going to ask now for you to limit your questions only to an understanding of the scale and nature of the problem. I know we have many thoughts and suggestions about ways to address the problem. I want to understand right now what we know to be the scale of the problem. Ms. Mann, you have a question about the scale of the problem?
I apologize. I'm taking myself off mute. So this is clarifying question. So, we mentioned apartment buildings, and are they apartment buildings in a particular community? Are they apartment buildings that are run by a particular? Can we speak to that piece?
I'm not sure that they would know that by address.
All right. Well, I think that let's see. Are these apartment buildings that are a part of Albany Housing Authority? Or are they apartment buildings that are privately owned? Are we able to speak to that piece?
Tanya, you can go ahead and discuss the addresses that are at issue, and I think we discussed earlier sort of the landlord, quote unquote, of those premises.
I'm sorry, I keep having issues with the unmute button here. The addresses, I believe they are Albany Housing addresses. They are 220 Green Street and 230 Green Street. It is my anticipation to reach out to FOIL the information that is needed to complete those addresses from the County of Elections to assist me with getting those ballots to the voters.
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify this one more time. 220 and 230 Green Street were the ones you were unable to resolve. Were those the only buildings impacted, or were there other buildings impacted besides those, but you were able to resolve those? That's what I'm not understanding.
There were other buildings that were involved, but I was able to resolve those buildings.
Ms. Mann?
I'm having the same problem as Billy was having, getting myself off of mute. So, so the ones that we were able to resolve, what buildings were they?
I was able to resolve 123 Livingston Avenue, 270 North Pearl Street, 260 North Pearl Street, and 200 Green Street.
Okay. And so that's very helpful for us to understand. We obviously, I think it's clear that we don't know if this is the extent of the problem, right? There could be more mail out there that is going to come back. We don't know, but we do know that these were problematic, and that means that the ones that you were able to deal with went back out in the mail today with the complete address. But that still is going to give those voters a rather limited time to get their vote back to us.
That is correct.
Board colleagues, any other questions about the extent or scale or nature of the problem? Tabitha.
Thank you. So just understanding how to basically pursue avenues of redress, because I do understand that you're actively working on it. I do understand many were resolved. The part that I'm trying to piece together is individuals who may have limitations on hand delivery back to Academy Park, and also whether we have any accommodations or creative things that we can do to sort of shorten that loop, given that no, it's not our fault, but actually just taking ownership. So things such as another way of dropping it, another place of dropping it, a closer locale of dropping it, things of that nature.
At this
Okay.
time, we would need to consult with our legal team to see what those things are that we could absolutely do. And whatever we need to do, we will make sure that we do it, just as we are trying to make sure that we are getting that complete address on those ballots so that we can get them out. We absolutely are working on what are some of those ways that legally we can look to retrieve those ballots.
So I would like to propose to my colleagues that at the minimum that we acknowledge that this is a problem and that we call for help from the governor, to ask that he extend the deadline. As everyone knows from reading in the Times-Union, this vendor NTS, who has served us adequately for a number of years in our regular polls, obviously was not up to the task of this brand new extraordinary situation. And I feel very badly for some districts who still don't have their ballots aren't even in the mail yet, right? I mean, they are an even worse position than we are. But yet we know that some voters are going to receive their ballots considerably later than other voters. And we know that those ballots are going to be received so late that it's not feasible to think that the United States Postal Service will be able to return the ballot to us in a timely manner. So I don't know that we could succeed in getting this addressed, but I do think we should write the letter and make the request. Any conversation on that, Tabitha?
It was an affirmative hand raised.
Ms. Smith, did you have something to say, or were you just wanting?
Yes, I didn't know, was that a formal motion? Do we need to make that motion? Is this a suggestion?
I don't know that we need a formal motion, although we could make one for completeness. I'll make the motion that we, the board, write a letter to the governor with the assistance of the district to make sure that we get the language right, making the request that we push the deadline back by an equivalent number of days to the number of days late that we anticipate these letters will be. Now, that's going to be a little bit tricky because we don't actually know, right? We could still be getting returned mail next week and we would have no way of knowing. But I think between now and then, we should be able to figure out with NTS how they mess this up and know which addresses were improperly applied to the envelopes. And then we could resend the ballots, and then we would be able to count forward from those days or in some way. So that's my motion, that we write a letter, the details of which to be determined later. Do I have a second? Ms. Mann, all in favor? That is unanimous. Any other thoughts or suggestions you want to have? Let's see, who has not spoken yet?
I did have a question. Yes. Thank you. So this is a question for Tanya. I'm just kind of curious what resolves completely means in terms of the other, the returned mail that you got that you're stating did come from these apartment buildings, but you said they're resolved completely. Now, do we know we got every single one of these ballots back in the mail, or are there other ones that are still coming to us? Which brings me to my second thought, that if we can get the Postmaster General of the area involved in at least determining what the quantity of the returned ballots could be, I think we need to get on that as quickly as possible. And if there has already been some kind of discussion with the post office, please let me know.
Okay, I think that's an excellent suggestion. I don't think it needs a board action because it's really a request for staff to make that contact with the post office at a very high level, and then get back to us. So can we do, Ms. Smith, I think you had, Ms. Bowie, did you want to add something?
I have been speaking with people within the post office. I will make that attempt to go higher to the Postal General. So I just want to Postmaster General. So I just wanted to put that out there. They've been trying to keep me updated all along with the issue that we are facing with these ballots. I just wanted to put that out there.
Tanya, so just to go back, how do we know that these other apartment buildings are resolved completely? Did we receive returned mail in the quantity that we resubmitted?
So I'm going to summarize while Ms. Bowie gets herself off of mute. They received the mail. The mail was marked undeliverable. They contacted the County Board of Elections, who has the full voter file, compared verbally the address on the piece of mail to the address on the voter file, were able to identify that there was a missing piece of the address, appended the piece of the address that was missing, and put it back in the mail, is my understanding. So Ms. Bowie or Mrs. Adams, if that's not correct, if somebody could add, but that's, I believe, the process that was followed.
That is the process that was followed. There is no return receipt. So if you're asking Member Elmanyawi if was it sent certified? No, it was not. It was sent back. And so the only other way that we would know that it would not be received is that we would get the mail returned to us.
Okay, Ms. Smith, you're next in line for a question.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Bowie, and again, this may be too far in the weeds, but I assume this took you quite a bit of time to resolve resolve with the county today. I do appreciate the superintendent indicating that the district will do whatever it takes to address any additional ballots that come in undeliverable. And I just wanted to add, I know that you do have to check out with our council what is legal and permissible to do, but if we need to get more hands on deck, I certainly will volunteer, and I'll even tell my daughter that she has to come down and help out. So I just, and I really just wanted to say that this is, no one wants to, and certainly we don't want to be in a mode of or appearance of having disenfranchised our population, any population of community members. And so whatever needs to be done, I know that we'll do it, that we definitely will make sure that happens. But it is also, while I'm trying not to, freak out over the possibility that the scale could be bigger, that is certainly a concern. But I do appreciate you acknowledging this and saying we will make it happen to ensure that voters get the ballots in hand as soon as we possibly can. Thank you.
Ms. Mann?
Was Ms. Wilson before me?
Oh, she was. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay, Ms. Mann.
Okay, so I think that just to kind of piggyback on what Ms. Smith just shared, I do think that it also would be, I think, a good idea to share this information in real time with our Common Council members, with the entire body, and then making sure that the leaders in those communities are also aware of the concerns.
So I would say I would personally, I agree. However, I would like to get to the next level of certainty. If we can reach out to the post office tomorrow and clarify, for example, there are a number of very large buildings in Albany that are much bigger than the ones that we know were impacted. So for example, out in Patroon Creek, there's a very large building, right? And that has many, many voters in it. So we haven't gotten any returned mail from them. So I believe the problem is going to be bigger than it is now, but we really just don't have a sense of the scale, and the post office may, or NTS may be able to help us understand the sense of scale. And I don't want to contact the council without a little bit more information, just to get a little, which I think we can do hopefully quickly tomorrow morning.
Okay, then I am in complete agreement with that. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Tucker, I think you were next.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said, and let's get the scale of the problem before we contact the council. In terms of if you know what apartment, as we, one thing I would like to know is, would it be possible to post the street addresses, the general, okay, it's Green Street or somewhere on our website or some sort of notification so that if you live on these streets, make sure that you check your mail. I mean, in general, we have the voting process where, see, if you don't get your ballot, you contact us. But these are problematic areas that we've identified. So if we can identify more of those as the undelivered mail comes in, we can put these hot spots somewhere on our website so people living in those areas can know, oh, well, I might definitely be impacted because of this. Because this is something that we have to be proactive and make sure that people don't feel they're disenfranchised, as Ms. Smith said. We just don't know what the scale of the rule is. Right now, 200, 300 votes out of 47,000 is a small amount. But the mail is still coming in. So we have no idea. There's lots of apartment complexes, like you said, that are huge. So
I had one question I wanted to ask about a practical matter, and I agree with you, Dr. Chutora. Any information we can provide to the community so that they know what's going on in a very detailed way is good. I recall that on routine consent tonight, we had our inspectors for the voting inspectors. And if I recall correctly, and what Ms. Bowie said is if somebody needs to get their ballot by hand, not turn it in by hand, which anybody can do, right? You can hand your ballot to anybody and let them turn it in for you. But if you want to receive a ballot by hand, you need to receive that ballot personally. You cannot get your husband, your spouse, your friend to go pick up your ballot. So one idea I have, which I don't know if it will be necessary, again, we don't know what the scale of the problem is, but if the problem is impacting other very large buildings with significant number of people in them, could we actually bring ballots to people and hand them to people in their place, which would be expensive, right? Difficult and expensive, and we'd need a lot more inspectors because it would take a lot more time. So that's my question. Just I want to confirm my understanding that we need to do personal delivery and that there's no exception to that in the executive order, and a discussion about the way we might be able to mitigate the problem of not having of people not having their ballots if we can't get the governor to shift the date.
I do know there's a process in terms of making the determination for the qualified voter status. So I'm going to defer to our legal counsel to see whether or not, if he can expand on your suggestion as far as the legal perspective and having to properly identify somebody as a registered voter. Mr. Honeywell?
Board President's correct that you can't have a substitute person pick up your ballot. Again, you got to think here that the normal law that we're trying to apply to this very unique situation contemplates that these are mailed out well in advance, that even if a person's going to be picking it up in person, they go down to the district clerk and that they drop off their ballot to the district clerk. Again, the presumption is that that's before the day of the vote, because generally you have an absentee ballot because you are unavailable on the day of the vote. So we will certainly do whatever is legally possible to ensure that the maximum number of votes and ballots are received in as many locations as we certainly can within the law.
So I'm going to propose that board members check their calendar for tomorrow night and see if we need to have a special meeting, because if we need to establish, and maybe Mr. Honeywell, I made an assumption here that I think I understand, the person who has to do the handing out of the ballot has to be a certified poll inspector or voting inspector, whatever it is that we just approved tonight.
Handing out the ballots is only contemplated by the district clerk. Under a normal statute, under a normal election, the statute's contemplating the applications. An application that goes to a district clerk, and the application piece was suspended this year. So to some extent, is there any way in the law that we can create assistant deputy clerks who are deputy clerks for the purpose only of handing out these ballots if that were to become necessary? I know I'm grasping at straws here, but I'm trying to find legal ways
for us to be as assistive as we possibly can. This, as everyone knows, a mistake was made either by a third-party vendor or in the transition of information to the third-party vendor. But either way, we have voters who didn't get their ballots, and we should be doing absolutely everything we possibly can to make sure that they are enfranchised. So I hear what you're saying about the law saying the district clerk has to hand them out. I love Tanya, and she works incredibly hard, but there's only one of her. And if this scale of this problem is much bigger than we anticipate, that's not going to be enough.
Correct, and I'll look into that process to be able to fully advise how we can expand that district clerk role or people in that role, at least temporarily, for this sole single purpose.
Okay. Anyone else have something they want to add or comment on or otherwise add to the conversation on this topic?
Mr. Savage?
I have something.
Dr. Tutor and then Mr. Elmina.
Sure. Should we do we contact NISBA as well? Because this, I'm guessing that the whole NTS fiasco has affected many districts other than just us. The other thing I wanted to point out was Saturday morning, we have a hearing of the budget where most of the board members would be present. So we could just have a time set up at that time as well for discussing this.
Excellent point. Thank you for keeping track of the calendar. Mr. Elmina, you're next. Ms. Mann, you're off mute.
I apologize.
Thank you. Am I next?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm with Tanya and Christopher Honeywell that we are doing what we can to reach out to those buildings that we know we have received returned mail, and let their, I guess, their executive director, their management know. I think that needs to go out as soon as possible in order for the people and the residents of those buildings to know that they need to either keep an eye out for the new mail that's coming or get a new ballot from Tanya. So I guess the question is, have you guys reached out?
I hear your suggestion.
And if not yet, will you?
I can definitely reach out to the managements for the buildings that I have not resolved.
I take it, since this is such a new problem, we're just.
I'm sorry, Ann?
I believe at least a couple of these buildings are Albany Housing Authority buildings, right? So that would be one phone call that'd be relatively easy to make.
Correct. The goal is going to be for the buildings certainly that are housing authorities. We're going to get in contact with them. I've spoken with Tanya to attempt to get some signage at these buildings to alert the residents to the problem, to A, check your mail for those that we have resolved but might be getting their ballots late, and B, for those who have not received it, at any point they see that message, to reach out to Tanya to arrange for sort of a personal pickup. So those efforts will be being made first thing tomorrow morning to work through that, and I'll be working with Tanya through that process as well.
Okay, so thank you very much. I will ask that we plan for a mid-morning update from the board clerk to me, and I will share that information with the rest of the board so that we can just keep on top of this as it's going. The normal board process is to stay out of the operational intricacies of things, but in this particular case, it's so closely aligned to the budget vote that I really want to be in the know as we're going along.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tanya. Anyone else, or are we good to return to our regularly scheduled agenda? Okay, so I think that brings us back to the policy committee. Dr. Chatur.
I think I'm unmuted now. Okay. So, as you can see, policy committee has been busy. Um, we have quite a few policies to discuss today. The first one that I would like to bring to the table is 5300, which is Code of Conduct. And as most of you will know, this is something that has to be looked at on an annual basis. And so this is about the time of the year when we look at it, we make the changes, then it goes to the printer, so it's ready by the time the students come into the school district, and everybody gets a copy of this. So even though you don't have copies of the red line version, what is there is a link to the draft that is there, which has comments attached to it. This is the file that will be sent to the publisher so that they can make the changes on the fly and think in a streamlined fashion. So what I have in the memo is outlined things that the salient features of the changes. So the COVID-19 pandemic has led to delivery of instruction in a digital environment. The district's code of conduct was thus revised to indicate that the expectations defined within are applicable on school property, at school functions, in the digital classroom, where there's a nexus to the school district environment. The students' rights and responsibilities now also extends to the digital classroom. So certain things that have changed: enforcement of code of conduct. The building principal designee has overall responsibility to ensure the code of conduct is enforced within their building, or for conduct which has nexus to the school environment. So that includes the digital classrooms as well these days. Based on current practices, the possible responses to the tiered interventions were also revised. So level 1 interventions can involve school staff, partner, or community agency staff. Level 2 responses, conflict resolution, is now referred to as peer mediation or restorative cycles. These are terminologies that have changed based on current practices. Individualized case management for students with 504 plans or IEPs was deleted since it's covered elsewhere. The Social Academic Intervention Group, or SAIG, is now referred to as Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, or MTSS. In level 4 responses, Comprehensive Student Success Planning Meeting is now changed to Plan for Student Entry Meeting. The glossary was also revised. School is now defined as school as utilized in the Code of Conduct includes not only the physical school building and classrooms, but also includes digital classrooms and off-campus class learning opportunities arranged by the district for district students. Classroom is defined to include the physical on-campus instructional environment, off-campus externships or instructional opportunities, and the digital instructional environment. A digital classroom extends a physical classroom into digital space. Electronic devices and software are incorporated into the learning environment. This can include, but is not limited to, digital space for collaboration between teacher and students, reflective discussion forums, individualized lessons, and teacher feedback. So that was the changes proposed for the Code of Conduct. It's not a lot of changes, but there are, these are some changes that had to happen because of the online teaching environment. It's come a long way since 2-3 years ago when we had a complete overhaul of the Code of Conduct. The second thing that I want to bring your attention to is that in March of this year, the district received an audit regarding the ESSA Title I funds, and PPS was involved in a few areas, but the majority of PPS's focuses involved use of funds and operation of the McKinney-Vento Act. The audit resulted in the majority of the items found as requirements met, required action needed. As a result, the following policy regulations were required to be created or edited to reflect the existing practice of our district and to clearly define the role of the homeless liaison and the rights of students experiencing temporary housing. So this impacts a few policies. So it led to the creation of 5151 homeless children regulation, editing of the 4710 or grading system, editing of the 8400R or the transportation regulation, These policies now cross-reference to the homeless policy to be in compliance with the McKinney-Vento laws. So that was the change. That the wording of the policy themselves didn't change, but now they also refer to the homeless policy. The next policy was 8635, which is Information Security Breach and Notification. Again, due to new regulations enacted by the ACD in January of this year, the district has some policy needs that need to be addressed pretty soon by July 1st, 2020. To the work of our council, in particular Chris Honeywell, three items that constitute the policy interests. Interrelated, one core policy, a regulation, and exhibit. The board only needs to take official action on the specific policy, which is 8635. The rest is regulation. We don't approve the regulations or the exhibits. It should be noted that 8635 and 8635 are existing policies and were just updated in November of last year. The existing policy is the natural space to incorporate the change in regulation. As such, the attached policy 8635 and its regulation was substantially modified to the point that now they're essentially new documents. So the most relevant, the most important policy that is applicable right now is 1230, public participation as board meetings. As a result of Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, the board has been conducting its meeting online since March 19, 2020. This has resulted in acceptance of public comments by email or voicemail to be read into the record. We're very glad that the public has used this new mode of communication to voice their concerns. While public comments are always welcome, the revised policy now defines some criteria for comments that are not in person so as to make the board meetings more efficient. Specifically, the 3-minute time limit is applicable to all public comments, including the new formats. Thus, the written comments that will be read aloud are limited to 400 words, which is an equivalent to 3 minutes. Voicemails will also be played aloud to a limit of 3 minutes, while media messages sent via email will only be played if they include only the commenter speaking their own public comment. Because this brings about privacy issues and other things that we would have to address otherwise. So those are the policies for discussion today. Discussion?
So let's take first any discussion except on 1230. Does anybody have any discussion on any policy besides 1230? None. Does anybody have any commentary, suggestions, questions about 1230? Ellen. Oh,
I do.
Ellen and Tabitha.
I just wanted to ask, are we going to then telephone people who email to verify their comments before the board meeting? And if so, who's going to do that? Is that going to be our job as the board? Is that going to be the board clerk's responsibility? How will that task be managed?
So I personally inserted that language. It was my intention that it be only done when there is some reason to believe that there's a problem, not that it be done as a uniform problem. Nature of the situation, it wouldn't be our normal process. Normally, we don't ask people to show ID when they speak to us in person, so I kind of thought of it as comparable to that. But I thought if there was something that seemed askew, for example, the email address name was radically different than the name of the signer, and it appeared that perhaps somebody was trying to impersonate someone else, or we found the content to be perhaps suggesting that it was, copied from some other site or something. You know what I mean? Like it just didn't feel right. I don't think we have the capacity to make a phone call for every single letter that we receive. Especially when we're in, normally public comment boils up when we have something major happening. And so we go from 3 or 4 letters to, 100 letters. And then it's always in a time when there's other time constraints. So that was my thinking, but I'm open to other conversation about it.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense. And it's good to have that phone number just in case.
Ms. Wilson, you had something?
Yes, thank you. So I appreciate these edits because I think it basically reaffirms that our major focus that, is of course, board business, and there's many trajectories to communicate with us. You can always email us. It doesn't necessarily have to be constrained or confined to a board meeting. We dialogue with people all the time, and that's always an option, but we do have to basically do it in the constraints of the other business we attend to, and we do to make their comments about things that are relevant and going on. And it is important that we always weigh and consider everything, whether it's a public comment or not. But I just think that these are good practice and a good foundation for moving forward.
And I just wanted to echo actually that I think this policy change makes sense considering we had a 3-minute policy before COVID-19. So this will allow us to budget our time a little bit more wisely if we have a deluge of comments. So thank you, Dr. Chatul, for pushing this forward.
It's just fair to the people who would have made 3-minute comments in person, right? It's important that we hear all the comments, but then we only have so much time, and all the other stuff also needs to get done. So, the other option is, as we have in our policy right now, it'll be 30 minutes at front and 30 minutes, or we can extend the time for after the meeting. This would be more efficient.
Ms. Smith, did you have a comment?
No, I think it's answered. I'm good, thank you, but I'm glad to see these changes as well. Thank you.
And I just wanted to draw out that the way that this is drafted, which I think Dr. Chatur mentioned, but I just want to make sure I got a little distracted there, and I want to make sure that it was said, that these would continue to apply after. So this would be our new policy, and it would continue to apply even when we're meeting in person. So that would increase the amount of public comment we would get, which would be terrific, right? There's no real reason why we were always limited to just people who could come meet with us. It was just the way it was always done. And now we have an opportunity to rethink and reimagine. And I think we're taking that as an opportunity. Anyone else on this? Otherwise, we will vote on it when we
Next time.
Come back together, not anticipating we would vote on this in a special meeting. Okay, we good? All right, let's move on then, barring somebody saying they have something else to add there, which brings us to item G, which is the superintendent's report on COVID-19 operational and academic updates. This has become a routine part of our meetings where we hear what's going on in the latest way that we're doing school today.
So thank you very much, Madam President and members of the board. Just an update, we do have some items that we need to review with regard to COVID-19 and the impact on the academics and operational items. We look at our guiding principles to make sure that we are staying focused with what it is that we are doing in our distance learning environment, making sure that we are keeping the board and our public updated and providing that summary of the process and the steps taken to reduce, in response to reducing the spread of COVID-19. We've talked about our end of the year calendar and some of the timelines. And so I just want to bring those back in that parents will be getting information from the individual schools with regard to the collection of belongings. Any of those challenges need to be communicated directly to either the teacher or the principal so that we can make sure that we are following up on that in a very timely manner. And so between June 1st and June 12th, students, there is a schedule that individual schools have put together their schedules for when students will be able to come and get their belongings. Also, we've had administrators, faculty, and staff, and that time can be extended if needed. Again, just a reminder, our last day of instruction is June 18th. Couple of updates with regard to our moving up ceremonies. Between June 15th and 18th, we will be looking at the moving up ceremonies, and those schedules are determined by the school administrators, and that will be going out to our families. Albany High still has several events that are scheduled: the virtual prom on June 13th, virtual awards night on June 17th, and the virtual graduation, followed by a vehicle parade on the 28th. And of course, we will follow all COVID-19 guidelines with regard to PPE. So the note that you see there is just a little bit of a clarification, and we did receive some information today shortly before the start of the board meeting with regard to interim guidance for graduation celebrations. And so I want to make sure that it's very clear that within the executive orders from our governor, school districts are in phase 4. So we will have to align with the guidelines of the reopening process with regard to phase 4, and that would include any large events and gatherings that we're having. There are guidelines throughout each phase-in process that we want to make sure that we are following. As stated already, we are considering a traditional graduation ceremony for our June and August graduates in August, but more information will be forthcoming because it is, of course, aligned with any guidance from our governor's office and the State Department of Education. So where do we stand now with regard to graduation? The plans that we have put in place with regard to the virtual ceremony and the vehicle parade are in alignment with the virtual celebrations that have the guidelines that have come out from the governor's office as well as from the state education department with regard to what we can do with virtual ceremonies. The guidance received strongly encourages virtual ceremonies, and also it looks at video presentations. It also authorizes that we could do, as we said, the vehicle parade where we are delivering the diplomas and senior swag directly to students one-to-one while practicing social distancing, while making sure that we have the proper PPE. There are a few more details with regard to those items, and I will have more of that information forthcoming. However, any of the in-person ceremonies are limited to gatherings of 10 individuals. And so I think that's important to note. And we will be going through these guidelines because in the event that these restrictions are lifted in August, then we would be able to see what we could do. There's nothing in the guidance that prevents us from postponing or extending or doing another ceremony. We were just concerned, deeply concerned, that if we did not do something quality now, and then we are still in a social distancing state where we are unable to have large gatherings and we postpone to August without having anything now in June, then our students miss out on everything. And so we are planning several different things to make sure that we are flexible with what we need to do so that not only are we recognizing our students our seniors during the month of June, it is a month-long celebration through graduation, as well as we are looking at what we might be able to do in August should some of the restrictions be lifted. We are also, there are also a couple of things that we need to look at with the operational impact. Students have had concerns about their music instruments, and those students who would like to keep them so that they can practice over the summer, they would be allowed to do that. Our Chromebook collection, we will need to collect our Chromebooks from our seniors that are graduating and leaving the district, as well as students who are leaving the district, meaning they may be going somewhere else and they're no longer going to be City School District of Albany students. They would need to turn in their Chromebooks, but the students who are remaining in the district will be able to keep their Chromebooks. I think it's important to note that our Chromebooks only work within our system. So if it's not logged into our system, then the Chromebook is non-operable. So that is one of the reasons why we're making sure that if students are with us, that they can keep the Chromebooks, but they only operate within our system. And I think that's important to note. Students will also have access to Dreambox and Lexia over the summer months. We are still in the process of looking at what our summer school looks like, because we did receive information from the governor's office that summer school would be completely virtual. However, some of our summer programs, meaning our summer day camps, are going to be able to operate. We have not received the final guidance with regard to how many students we can accept, what that social distancing would look like. All of those types of details are still coming out to us. And so when we receive that, we will then make sure that we communicate that to our parents and definitely to the board. We have one more budget town hall meeting on Saturday from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. And also you've heard information about the budget vote, but ballots are due June 9th, 5 p.m. at Academy Park. At this time, I will open it up for questions, please.
Board colleagues, any questions? I know that there were a lot of topics covered there.
I do need to add, I'm sorry, Madam President, I do need to add that the summer youth program, we are still looking at that summer youth program and what is it going to look like. We know that the mayor's office has reached out to us with several questions. Some of those questions are contingent upon what the guidelines for the summer day camps are going to be, because those two are interrelated. And so there are questions that we cannot answer. So we don't want anyone to think that we're not being responsive. We just can't answer those questions right now because we don't have the guidance that tells us what's going to be in place, so that then we can say what that summer youth work program is going to be like.
Can you talk a little bit about how we're communicating with our class of 2020 folks? I know that we got a letter in public comment today about that very topic that you addressed. And I know I'm hearing a lot of parents concerned that they're not understanding what you explained today, that there's a hope that there might be an in-person ceremony. I just don't understand what the communication has been like with those families.
So I know that Ms. Comerford has sent a letter out. We have put information in our daily communication. Lori McKenna, the assistant superintendent who supervises the high school, may have additional information. I know that students have engaged in conversation with Ms. Comerford with regard to what they would like to see. And of course, our students want to see things that are in person. And I'm not sure that they're understanding that the district, regardless of what other districts do, there are guidelines that we have to follow. And so I have to make sure, as the superintendent of our district, that I am following the guidelines set forth by the governor's office as well as by the state education department, to make sure that we are in alignment with those guidelines. Absolutely, we would love to be able to right now say that we would have an in-person graduation, but we are unable to do that. And so I know that we are definitely keeping our eye on the information that comes out. We're making sure that we align with that. That information can be communicated out to parents as well. However, I am aware of the letter that Ms. Comerford sent out herself, as well as the information that's gone out via our channels. And so I'll ask that Ms. McKenna, if there's anything else other than, that I've not covered, that she could please chime in.
No, I think you've done a great job summarizing what Ms. Comerford has done and communicated with the seniors class of 2020. She does meet regularly with them in a Google Meet and engage them in conversations around their desires for events leading up to graduation. But you are right, they are still holding out hope that we can have a traditional in-person graduation. And like Superintendent Adams indicated, we are bound by the governor's executive order with large size gatherings.
I will say that the next piece of information that we are looking at from the guidance is that they are monitoring all of the COVID-19 data, and that in July of 2020, they will reflect any changes to the restrictions on large in-person gatherings. So it may be July before we hear anything about whether something in person would be able to happen in August. But the notice does tell us that it would be July when we would receive additional information. Mr. Lesko?
Thank you. I also wanted to note that we have a class of 2020 information section in the Albany High School section of our website, and all the information that Principal Comerford has communicated via letter to her families is organized there as well. Cap and gown orders, information about yearbooks, senior recognitions, the virtual prom, the virtual award ceremony, etc. Those events that are coming up. And again, that's in the class of 2020 information section in the Albany High School section of our website.
Okay, any other questions about graduation or other? Oh, Ms. Wilson.
More of a question about the next few months. I was curious whether, and it's okay if we don't have a prescription for this yet, but I was just thinking about the nexus of food insecurity and the meals continuing, whether it's not incumbent on us only, maybe we could be like a food site, perhaps with an organization that does that, and whether there's also some capacity for us to do like, include activity sheets, age appropriate, perhaps, depending on the school. I mean, because I'm thinking that naturally a lot of things are closed currently. A lot of camps have already indicated they're not going to be open. So, things of that nature, I'm just wondering about if we could fill in the gaps in any capacity there.
So I'll speak to first the food distribution. We are still waiting to get approval or feedback with regard to if we are able to deliver food. Every summer, we participate in grab and go lunch for our students where they can come and pick up and families can pick up the meals. The thing that we will definitely be able to maintain that through the summer. What we are concerned about is being able to continue the delivery component. And that is what we are waiting approval of. Those are federal dollars. It has to have that level of approval. And right now we have not received confirmation as to what that is going to look like, but absolutely at the very base, we will have the grab and go sites during the summer as we've had in the past. With regard to partnering with other, like for example, restaurants and things like that, one of the things that we did talk about with our local restaurants that were doing takeout, because our program is federally funded and we needed to ensure that we were able to distribute our food. Many of them participated in like dinner because we could do the breakfast and the lunch. And so then in partnering with a restaurant, they could do like a grab and go dinner. And so we know that food insecurity is something that our community faces. And so we just want to make sure that all of our avenues are open so that our families can be fed.
Anyone else? Any follow-up questions on what we're doing or this? I was going to say transition to summer, but that's actually the perfect segue to our next agenda item, which is summer school. So didn't want to get ahead of myself. Any other questions about our current operations? If not, we will shift to summer school.
And at this time, I will turn the time over to Dr. Wilson Turner, who will talk to us about summer school, as well as Ms. Lori McKenna.
Good evening. Thank you, Superintendent Adams. So tonight we will present to you the summer program offerings that we will have for the City School District of Albany. And as Mrs. Adams alluded to, because we are not allowed back on site, all of our summer program that we're discussing this evening will be virtual. We will provide an overview for elementary summer school, middle school summer school, high school summer school, the newcomer program summer school, and the extended school year for our special education students. The first slide presented to you is the budget proposed for summer school at this point in time. The primary funding sources, as you can see, are Title I, Title III, the Community Schools Aid, our 21st Century Grant, and the other funding source is listed that will be specific to the ESY program, and I'll speak about that in a moment. Elementary school, oh, I'm going to stay on that slide for a second. Thank you. Elementary school, primarily funded out of Title I, Community Schools Aid and 21st Century. That distinction is important because the Community Schools Aid, the 21st Century funding, supports the enrichment component, which we are still going to attempt to offer virtually, and I'll discuss that in a little bit as well. And then middle school and high school are primarily coming out of Title I and Title III. Our ELL program out of Title III. And our total funding falls just short of $1 million, $988,500 to be more specific, which is probably $2 to $3 million less than what we typically spend on summer school. Our ESY program is actually funded at an 80% reimbursement rate and sits in a different special education budget line specifically for summer school in the general fund. Thank you. Oh. So I'll begin with the elementary summer school program. The program this year is very different, not only in it being virtual, but also in the timing of the program. In light of the fact that our students have been virtual for the last few months, we thought it was important for our youngest learners to have some time away from the computer and hopefully to be able to do some other things for the summer. But we thought it was really important to attempt to re-engage them the weeks prior to school so that they could begin to refresh themselves on key skills. So right now we are proposing to run our summer school from August 3rd through August 28th. And actually our hours will be 8:30 to 12:30 for the academic component. And as I mentioned, we've been working with our community partners, the YMCA and Boys and Girls Club, to provide an enrichment component. And that component will actually be offered from 12:30 to 4:30. And I'll talk a little bit about the structure in a moment. We are predicting that we would have 650 seats available, but we are going to open summer school virtually up to every student in the district at the elementary level, so that they would be able to join virtually if they so choose. We are attempting to do an electronic application process so families can indicate their interest in participating in the program, both academic and enrichment, so that we can plan accordingly for the level of students that will be involved. Our goal is really to preset our students, or as we like to say, front load them for the coming school year. And it'll provide us an opportunity to get them a head start on what's coming in September, do some more gap closing as we anticipate from the 3 months where they were not directly on site. We are requiring 2 hours of live instruction from our teachers. So they will be in a Google Meet, providing live instruction in ELA, math, social studies, and science. The construct will be 4 days of ELA, 4 days of math, 1 day of science, 1 day of social studies, so that they get a well-rounded experience. The emphasis is on instruction that is engaging, that requires movement, music, rhyming, whatever we can come up with that makes it so that students want to engage for another period of time on the computer. And then we want to follow that up with 30 minutes to an hour of work with a student support personnel. So that could be a behavior specialist, school psychologist, social worker, who will do some social emotional learning curriculum with our students so that they can engage in discussions that are non-academic to help them process and address some of the things that they have gone through and experienced and thought through through this different time. Then students would have available to them in the afternoon an enrichment component designed by the Boys and Girls Club and YMCA in collaboration, where students would do yoga, make crafts, do talent shows, things that again would be fun and engaging for them to be able to participate in and reinforce the concepts that we had been teaching with them in the morning. We intend to continue to offer Dreambox and Lexia as an electronic resource for families in support of the virtual program, so then when they're not with the teacher, they have another option there as well. And those, as a result, will be able to serve as one of the metrics for the program. We will also, as we do each year, still use the fall NWEA data to determine if students who participated in summer school were able to benefit or able to show more growth or more preparedness for the start of the school year in comparison to those students who did not. Our funding sources I mentioned before, primarily Title I, 21st Century, and Community Schools Aid, and the budget is just under $400,000. I will now turn the presentation over to Ms. McKenna.
Sorry. Okay, thanks, Cecily. So our middle school summer school program will also be virtual, and will provide our middle school students in grades 6 through 8 with an opportunity to receive additional support and instruction in the 4 core classes, meaning ELA, Math, Science, and Social Studies. Megan D'Alessandro is a 6th grade English teacher at Hackett Middle School, and she will be our summer school coordinator, along with support from our middle school assistant principals and homeschool coordinators, who will also provide support and ensure students are virtually engaged. In order to qualify for summer school students must fail 2 or more of their core classes. And in addition to the 4 core area teachers supporting those core classes, we will also have reading teachers, special education teachers, and social work support, just knowing the challenges our students have experienced during the COVID-19 closure. So we're really providing a wraparound approach to our virtual summer program for our students. In previous years, we've had a standalone newcomer program, as you're aware of, for our English language learners. This year, given the unique COVID-19 challenges, we are including our English language learners in our middle school summer school with support from ENL teachers. Christina Zantini, who is an ENL teacher over at AIC, is the ENL newcomer coordinator, and she will work closely with Ms. D'Alessandro on programming for our new for our English language learners. The way the day will be structured will be in 2 different blocks: a humanities block comprised of social studies and English, and also a STEM block around math and science. In addition to those 2 blocks, there will be office hours daily for students to receive additional assistance. So that will happen Monday through Thursday. On Friday, students will engage in community building and social emotional supports, and some of those activities or examples could include social workers developing and providing lessons with students around motivation, emotional well-being, management, managing emotions, second step, etc. Students will also participate on those Fridays in virtual field trips where short reflections will be completed with the teachers. And then finally, on those Fridays, summer reading projects with the students, where they will have options for book selections, where they'll read the books in like a book circle and have a book chat and complete some type of a project. Given the virtual platform for summer school this year, our middle school students, will receive a pass-fail grade in each of the 4 core areas. You can see on the slide the dates: July 7th through August 6th, hours from 8:30 to 11:30, Monday through Friday. We have allocated 275 seats just to keep the virtual classroom size down. However, based on some preliminary data, we are not expecting 275 students in our middle school summer school. Moving on to the high school, very similar to middle level summer school. Our high school will also be virtual. It is coordinated by our academy assistant principals with support from Vice Principal Gilmore. There will be 31 staff supporting our students in grades 9 through 12, and 2 of which are social workers to support the social emotional needs of our high school students. Summer school will be a blended approach using Apex and the Google Classroom. There will be both synchronous and asynchronous learning in the Google Classroom. As of right now, we are anticipating a 1 to 50 student ratio in our virtual classroom. And so in addition to the Apex and the Google Classroom, students will also have the opportunity to meet with their teachers virtually, of course, and other support staff during office hours, which will be scheduled on a daily basis. The majority of the courses that will be offered in summer school will be for credit recovery, meaning those students who were not successful during the regular school year will have the opportunity via the Google Classroom and Apex to recover those credits in living environment, earth science, English, algebra, U.S. history, and/or global history, depending on student needs. In addition to those classes, we are also offering 2 classes for first-time credit. And those 2 classes are health, which is a half credit, and multicultural studies, which is a 1 credit course, and that is an elective. Again, similar to the middle school, students will receive a pass-fail grade. Moving on to the newcomer program. In the past, we have focused the newcomer program K-12. Given the environment that we're in, we are focusing on high school only, grades 9 through 12, and the focus will be on the gateway courses students need for graduation. This program will provide our students who are new to the country with a foundation of knowledge that will accelerate their success and also allow them to build their background knowledge as they approach the upcoming school year. And some of these students are really brand new to our country, meaning in the last couple of weeks, or some of them are finishing up at AIC and will successfully transition to Albany High School in the fall. There will be content teachers as well as ENL teachers to support the students in those core areas as well. The newcomer program will be completely funded by Title III grants this summer. And finally, our special education K through 12 extended school year. We love acronyms, and so you'll often hear us refer to our extended school year program as our ESI program. Again, this will also be provided remotely this summer and will include continued access and support using supplemental resources, including unique learning systems, Dreambox, Lexia, and RazKids. Just to give a framework for the purpose of extended school year, because it is not open to all students with disabilities. It's specifically for our students with disabilities who qualify for these services, and it's to address regression in academics, social and behavioral functioning, communication skills, and other skills identified on a student's individual education program plan. Again, eligibility for ESY programming is based on individual students' regression and recoupment data and is determined by the Committee for Special Education. So given the challenges with COVID-19, we are also, in addition to the ESY, we will provide what we're calling continuity of related service programming this summer. And this is a service unique to this summer only to provide students who do not qualify for ESY programming with additional related service continuity and access in the areas of speech and language, occupational therapy, and social work services. Students are individually identified as candidates for this service based on a rubric developed for each one of these areas. There will be one coordinator position, which will be job shared with 2 people. We'll have the equivalent of 9 teachers and TAs, 4 social workers, and 4 speech therapists. Students, the model is a little bit different than if they were on site all day long with us. So students participating in ESY will either attend an AM session or a PM session, but this 2 sessions will be exact replicas of one another, and will include 2 different blocks. The first 90-minute block will include a live Google Meet classroom focusing on whole group, specially designed instruction, learning through movement, and then using instruction, providing instruction using interactive platforms such as Flipgrid and Nearpod. We will also incorporate second step lessons into that 90-minute block. The second 90-minute block in both the AM and PM sessions will focus on small group and individual meets to address individual IEP goals, focusing on ELA, math, and writing. This is where teachers will also progress monitor their students and provide assessments, also reteaching and skill reinforcement support. And then during this time is where we will see a blended learning approach for unique learning using Lexia, Dreambox, and RazKids. And Cecily mentioned in the openings, one of the opening slides, that 80% of the ESY program is reimbursable from the New York State Education Department. And with that, Cecily and I will open it up for questions.
Okay, board colleagues, thank you very much for your presentation. I continue to be amazed and astonished by what you all are doing, developing new programs and new voting mechanisms and new everything. Like every day is a new day. So I really recognize that this is not just rinse and repeat from your normal summer school presentation, and how much effort goes into developing an entirely new program. So thank you. Thank you very much for everything you're doing for our students. Ms. Smith, I think you wanted the first question.
Yes, and ditto on what you just said, Ms. President. So just a small question. On the last few slides, I think beginning with the newcomer program, high school, and the ESA, there's not a sense of the number of students. I assume those are relatively small, or can you give me a range of the number of students that may participate?
Yeah, so for the newcomer program, it is a relatively small number, and it's based on individual student needs in those courses, those gateway courses that I mentioned. And then for the ESY, it's dependent on a student's IEP. And they're finalizing IEPs, which begin 7/1, which includes ESY. So I don't have the exact numbers for that.
Okay. Took me a while to find the mute button. It's more a comment for Cecily. I don't know what the answer would be. I mean, the sessions for the elementary school is going to be between 8:30 to 12:30, which is fine. I mean, we've been doing online learning right now, and that's fine, even though it's not easy. Parents are at home doing this stuff, but as we're opening up, parents are going to be going to work, hopefully. Right? And so how do we address the little ones being able to access the online platforms?
So one of the things we've talked about actually for our youngest learners, you may or may not remember, Melissa Hasty, our early childhood director for pre-K, created like a weekly placemat for families of things that they could do with their child outside of the virtual space that were more natural to what skills and standards our pre-K students need to be able to access and navigate, things that can naturally be done within the home. And that is actually our plan to continue for our pre-K and our kindergarten students, so that they have the option of not sitting their child in front of a computer, if they're with grandma or somewhere else and have to navigate that. We did feel, though, for our 1st through 5th grade students that we did want to offer something that was direct live instruction, and hopefully giving parents enough time to plan for how they may be able to get their child to be able to sit, even if it's not every single day, but for many of the days that we're able to offer, to be able to continue that continuity of instruction to set them up for the school year. But yes, as a mom of 2 little people, I completely understand the challenge of trying to sit them down at a computer to do something. When you're trying to do your own work, we want to make sure that there's an option there for families to be able to access.
I mean, would those classroom sessions be recorded so that if mom or dad comes back in the evening, they can still sit down with their kids and?
So I won't commit to that, but I can say we can consider it, because it's not something that we've stated to our teachers who will be providing this live instruction, and we're trying to work with them on their comfort level with that piece of it. But what we may be able to do, and our instructional supervisors, Sarah McGraw and Lynn Strang, are incredible. What they do, they're building a whole virtual curriculum just for elementary summer school. like I said, to create something that's really engaging, and there'll be built-in videos and other resources. And our BOCES partners are looking to build an enrichment website for families that they can access similar things, virtual museum trips, things that will still continue to engage them. So that if our program of live instruction for 2 hours isn't the way to go for them, there will still be resources and options for them to still keep their students connected academically and in an enrichment way.
Thank you.
Ms. Jelmaniawi, you had a question?
Yes. So I understand that the newcomer program for summer school will be limited to 9th through 12th grade. My question is, those who are K through 8, are they just going to get rolled into regular summer school? And do we have an idea of the number of students K through 8 that would need summer school assistance for newcomers?
I can speak to grades 6 through 8. Christina Zantini, who is the newcomer summer program coordinator, is working closely with our middle school coordinator to develop program to meet the needs of our newcomer students participating in our middle school summer school program. And we do have an ENL teacher. We have actually 3 ENL teachers at the middle level supporting our English language learners. As far as the numbers are concerned, we're in the process of identifying those students. Third quarter grades just closed on May 29th, and we're in the process of pulling that data to determine the number of students who qualify for middle school summer school. I will tell you that based on preliminary data, the numbers are much lower than they have been in previous school years. At the high school level, we're looking at about 300 students based on preliminary data for summer school. In addition to the newcomer 9 through 12 program, we will also have ENL teachers supporting some of our English language learners who will go, who will participate in traditional high school programs. And Seth, I don't know about elementary.
Yep, for elementary, we're including in our staffing model. We hope to hire, and I say hope because we compete with the other all the other programs that are running, 6 special education teachers and 6 ENL teachers to provide additional support. Our ENL students will be invited to participate in summer just like every other student in our district. And we want to make sure that we have the support in place for any student that's going to participate.
Okay, thank you. I did also want to mention that I do appreciate the focus on engagement for summer school. I don't know if I caught it entirely, but I heard something about a virtual talent show, which I think is a really good idea. And if we can get more things centered on face-to-face student engagement during the summer, that would be fantastic. And I don't know, I don't know if you guys have these things planned out, but I would love to see more of that.
And I will take credit. I always borrow from where I see it, and I'll give credit to Giffen, who was using that as one of their pieces to keep their students engaged throughout this process.
Very nice. Thank you.
So I have just a quick question. You've mentioned a couple of times that the numbers, at least at middle school and maybe high school, I'm not sure if I heard correctly, are down for summer school. That suggests that we think our students ultimately are doing a little better than they did last year, at least through the first 3 quarters. I recognize that the 4th quarter was a bit of a mystery here.
If you hear a girl singing in the background, my daughter just walked in from work, so I apologize. I don't even think she realizes I'm in a meeting right now, so my apologies. But yes, so you know, we often say let's look for the silver lining in remote learning, and what it has really enabled us to do is do outreach with our students and provide them with the supports that they need in order to show evidence of learning. and meeting the standards for the core classes that they're participating in. We've also seen, and I think I mentioned this in one of my other presentations, that we've actually seen an uptick in our hard to reach students at the high school level, where they're actually a higher level engagement in the virtual learning platform. And I think that does play a part in the success or the reduction in the numbers of students participating in summer school. I will also say that many times those students who need additional support to pass a Regents exam participates in summer school, and because of the waiver, you know, that is also playing a part in the reduction of students participating.
I imagine that's also impacting a few seniors who might have otherwise not been able to graduate this year, but because of the waiver, did not have to pass a Regents in order to graduate.
Yeah, that's correct. And I hesitate to give a number, but we have pulled that data and it is significant.
Okay. It's very interesting because the New York State Education Department had long before COVID raised this question about whether we ought to be rethinking what's required for a high school diploma. And I know we've talked in this venue a couple of times about whether Cabinet wanted to make a proposal of what we might lobby for as we are working legislatively to try and improve things for all New York State children. But that is something I'm very interested in, is sort of what's the sound pedagogical approach to high school graduation. And if Algebra 1 is preventing a whole bunch of kids from graduating, is that a problem with the kids or is that a problem with the requirement? And so I really think that's the question. The big picture meta question that I know we're having trouble getting to this year because we have to keep reinventing new ways of doing every single thing that we do. But I do want to get back to that at some point because I think this district should have a position on that and should take a position on it, because we are dealing with a broad swath of the kind of kids that are in New York State. And we should figure out what we think is right and make a statement on it.
Absolutely. And I'm happy to provide those numbers. Mr. Baker's office has provided us with the preliminary data, and now our school counselors are going through and making sure that there's accuracy in those numbers and the students that we have identified. So certainly in an upcoming SBU, I'm happy to provide that information.
That sounds terrific. Thank you. And I've been sort of thinking about how crazy it's going to be to try and analyze data over the next 4 to 6 years, because everything is going to be screwy, right? The number of kids, all the kids this year, not just the seniors, but every kid this year who was in a Regents class is not going to be a kid who had to retake the Regents next year. So all of our Regents numbers are going to just be very difficult to analyze going forward. All right, I segued off of summer school. Anybody else have anything specifically on summer school? Okay, then we are going to talk about our capital project, if I'm on the agenda properly.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Dr. Wilson-Turner and Ms. McKenna. At this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Roaring. And I know that we have, I think, CS Arch and Turner Construction that will assist in this presentation or deliver the presentation.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome John Dawes, who's our new project manager from Turner at the high school, and also Mr. Rich Peckham, who is here with us from CS Arch tonight. They will be delivering the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Dawes. As Kimberly said, I'm with Turner Construction, so I will give you an update on where we are with our capital project. So we'll talk about the Albany High School first. So basically we have phase 1, which is the classroom addition that has been occupied since February of this year. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen that. Phase 2 is where we are working right now. We are renovating the art and music classroom addition. So 2nd and 3rd floor. So right now we are shooting for, well, we're on schedule for November of 2020 to finish that area. So everything's been moving along on that very nicely. Phase 3 is our next phase that is out to bid right now. That includes the media center, the new main entry, academic building, gymnasium, athletic renovations, tennis courts, things like that, auditorium. So that one we're breaking up into 2 sections basically. So we're going to have a partial occupancy on fall of 2021. So that'll be like your auditorium, your academic building, gymnasium, things like that will be completed at that time. And then the remaining areas will be completed in the fall of 2023. Phase 4 would be the next phase that we would go in after phase 3, obviously. So the fall of 2023, we would move right into phase 4, and that will be scheduled to be completed in the fall of 2025. So right now, all the phases, we're moving right along very nicely. So here's some completed milestones for phase 1. Basically, we're just about finished that all up. We're working on punch list items, things like that. I'll get into that a little bit later. But we did all our topsoil grading and seeding, basically all around that building. So that has been completed. Some phase 2, all concrete floors have been poured. So that was a good milestone there that we hit. Phase 2, interior framing. So all our studs, all that is all up, basically substantially complete. We're actually sheetrocking now. Masonry installation in the pool and boiler room, that is all complete as well. Fireproofing, this was a big milestone. We finished all that in all our second and third floors. And then we had air handlers. We had quite a few air handlers that we were set and placed on the roof back in May. So those are just some completed milestones that we just wanted to share. These were big milestones. So we're good there. So the look ahead schedule for phase 1, punch list is ongoing. Like I mentioned, 90% complete for the new addition. We call that area 7 and 8. So this to give you a quick update on where we are with that punch list items is we had 4,297 punch list items just for phase 1. We have closed 3,855, and we only have 322 remaining that are open. So a majority of that is our electrician. Believe it or not, he just has to go around and put faceplates on outlets. So I know it's like pulling teeth to get them to come back to do that, but they are lined up and ready to complete that. So we are hoping to be all completed with our phase 1 punch list in the very near future. Area 4-6, chilled water and boiler room near completion. So that's the other areas. We have the boiler room is basically all we have now is one little vent to put in to vent the area, and then we're done in there. So phase 1 should be buttoning up very quickly. Phase 2, stair 4-2 installation is progressing. So that's our stair towers, exterior masonry veneer. That is moving along as well. So that is basically on the about 90% complete on that. So, and then the exterior wall panel installation. So that's facing on the Washington Ave side. That's all metal panels. So that is continuing on. So if you were to drive by, you will see all of that. The MEP on the floor, that's basically all ongoing. So that's your mechanical and electrical. So that's moving on. Interior drywall installation is progressing. So some of our concerns, National Grid schedule to energize new switchgear. So we're just, we've been in discussion with them to have them come and energize that switchgear. Claims due to COVID-19, we've been addressing those as they come in. So basically we have 2 contractors right now that are talking about that. I can touch on that later. General contractor claim for schedule delay. We had a little steel issue early on in the project, so we are tracking that as well. So next slide, we have some photos that I can share with you. So on your left, that's the bridge crossing phase 1 and 2. Your pool roof basically is on your right-hand side. The middle picture is area 5. That's your art room on the 3rd floor. Basically, you see the studs are up, there's sheetrock down, or sheetrock being delivered in the middle. And then on the right-hand side, that's your exterior building, area 5 south side. Well, that's facing the south side for those. So moving on to phase 3 schedule. So that's bidding now. Basically the bids are due on June 9th. So that's an update. June 9th, the bids are due. We hope to award the contracts on the 18th, start construction right after the July 4th holiday. And our construction, as we talked about, will be July 20th to 2023. For phase 3, that's out in the streets right now. There's going to be 6 prime contractors. As you can see, site, general, mechanical, plumber, electrical, and fire protection. I can give a quick update on that if you want. So site contractors, we have 4 that are interested in bidding that have confirmed. We have 5 general contractors that are confirmed that are bidding. We have 5 mechanical contractors that have confirmed. 4 plumbers have confirmed. 3 electrical have confirmed, and 2 fire protection contractors have confirmed. So we have good coverage. So phase 3, 4 phases within the phase 3. So we kind of touched on this earlier, 3A loft. That's where we're going to be starting first, right after the 4th holiday, July 4th holiday. We'll be working on that. Phase 3B, locker rooms, rubber gym. That'll also be going on this summer. And then 3C, the main gym catwalk, that will start in the summer of 2022. And then the 3D corridor addition, again, the summer of 2022. The next slides will basically show some pictures of those areas so you get an idea of the building footprint of what those entail. So you can see the footprint there. You got the, where we're going to be looking is all the colored area. That's our phase 3. As you can see, phase 1 is what we completed, the PH1 and the PH2 in the lower left. That's what we're working on now. Phase 4 will be the following phase after phase 3, which is 2022. So those are just, there's a couple floor pictures on those. We did first, second, and third floor, but you can see those are all the areas that we're going to be working in. So the next slide is the budget for phase 1. We are on budget. We have $58,000 in contingency money left over. We have a couple potential change orders that are on the pipe looking to get approved to move forward on some. Mostly that one there right there is we have a claim that we've been working on for a delay. So that's where that potential is. Phase 2, if you move the next slide, is the phase 2 budget. This one we are also right on budget as well. We have about $704,000 left in contingency money of phase 2. So everything seems to be moving very well with the budget. So that was a quick rundown of the high school. Next slide is our questions. So if anybody has any questions, I know I ran through that quick. I can get into more details if you want.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dawes. I appreciate the presentation. I know that we're all sad that our very beautiful occupied phase 1 of Albany High is in fact not occupied, but we still love it and we still look forward to occupying it. Board colleagues, any questions about Albany High?
I have a comment.
Hands, so I'm sorry. Mr. Minyawi, go ahead.
I just wanted to say to John and Rich and the other crew members, great job on punching through that punch list. You guys went through something like over 3,000 fixes and in a few months, so great job. I am really personally very excited to hear about the music and art wing being, like something like 50% done. I think that's what we heard at the facilities committee. And just keep up the good work. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Dr. Chittor.
A quick question. What was the catwalk in the gym?
There's just an area that's actually, it's not really an occupied catwalk. There's an area that's up above between the rubber gym and the main gym where there's some mechanical equipment up there that we gotta get up there and do some work, putting in new mechanical duct work.
Thank you.
Board colleagues, I have a question I'll insert here. If anyone else has one, that's fine as well. Can you remind me, Mr. Dawes, and by the way, welcome. I'm sorry that we're not meeting face to face. I know we've met occasionally at various conferences, but welcome. I'm glad to have you here. The academic building for phase 3, it says partial academic, and I can't remember what part is in phase 3 and what part is in phase 4. Can you remind me about that?
The north third of the current 3-story classroom building, excuse me, is in phase 3. And then the other 2/3 is in phase 4, as you can see from that diagram. So the functions that are in phase 3 is the new library media center, the CTE spaces for automotive, construction technology, health sciences are in phase 3. And then there is a family and consumer science classroom on the 3rd floor, and then 5 or 6 other classrooms on the 3rd floor that are currently designated in the final configuration to be used for ENL.
I see. So it's pretty much specialty spaces, CTE, ENL classrooms, that kind of thing. The general academy spaces are phase 4?
Correct. The other 2 academies will be in phase 4, one on each floor.
Okay, that's helpful for me to understand. Thank you. Anyone else have a question before we go on to the next portion of this? All right. Looks like we can press forward.
Okay, so just want to give you a brief update of where we're at schedule-wise with North Albany Middle School, and then just how we're working through. Don't really have many design presentation tonight because not a lot's changed. We've just been working through some issues with the district administration, fine-tuning some details, looking to submit this to state ed this month. And then the good news is that hopefully the state ed review and approval time will be even shorter. We're not quite sure if it's because of the COVID thing that people aren't submitting projects, or the state ed employees have all been working efficiently from home, but their review times are down to 6 to 8 weeks. They were 16 to 20 weeks earlier in the year. So that is very good news. So we're still planning in this schedule 16 weeks for review, because that's the time for them to review it, and then we got to respond and get the formal approval. So we're looking at bidding the end of this year, contract award in January, and start construction in February of 2021 through fall of 2023 for the opening of the new North Albany Middle School. If we get out of state ed sooner, we could probably bid the project sooner. But this looking at state ed schedule right now, this is a very doable schedule. Some of the things that we're just finalizing, working through some options on, a subject that's been very dear to the board and the superintendent's focus is appropriate distribution of gender neutral toilet rooms and changing rooms. So we're working through that. Working through just some final details on the boiler and chiller scope, in how it gets extended or not extended into parts of what was the YMCA, and then overall integration of the new and existing finishes. So it's, since it's a renovation project, we want to make sure it looks cohesive when we're all done with the different parts of the existing versus what's going to be new in the building. So that's really where we're at with North Albany Middle School. There's a few other projects that are under construction this summer from the capital project. We're replacing the roofs at Sunshine and the flat roof area at Edmund O'Neill. And that construction's starting in a couple weeks and it'll be done by the end of July. We're replacing the chillers at New Scotland, and that construction is starting now and will be done in August. And then we're also replacing one of the air handler rooftop units at Harriet Gibbons, when that work will be consolidated to the month of August. So that's the air handler that impacts the IT department mainly. So we're trying to consolidate the time frame for the minimum impact on that department. And that brings us to questions on these parts of the capital work of the district.
Board colleagues, just humor me and ask any of your North Albany questions first, and then any for the other projects, just so we don't get too far off. Many things going on at once. Anybody have any questions about North Albany Middle School? Seeing none. Any questions about these 3 other minor projects? I know there was a question that was kicking around, which I mentioned to some of my facilities committee teammates, and I don't know if that got asked in facilities committee yet, but I've seen some concern expressed about Albany High and the fact that the windows don't open, and you'll have to correct my vocabulary, but whether the number of times that the air turns over is sufficient for health in this time of COVID. There's been some studies, which I know are probably premature, that people being in close quarters with each other could be a problem, and people breathing air that's been recirculated very frequently can be a problem. And I'm wondering if we're at a point where we have any information about that.
That question has not been specifically brought to my attention yet, but just so you know that the air that comes to the classrooms in the Albany High School in the new addition is what we call 100% outside air. So we're not recirculating any air between classrooms. There's some air recirculation within the classroom, but in that addition, there's no air that will go from classroom A to classroom B through the ductwork system. It's all fresh air that comes into each individual classroom.
So help me understand that a little better. That means in February, when it's 2 degrees outside, fresh air is coming in and being heated sufficiently to keep it warm in that very classroom and then moved out? I don't understand.
There's a certain amount of we call it ventilation air, which is fresh air that has to come into every classroom, a certain amount of air that's coming in every minute, basically. It's a CFM, cubic feet per minute, that has to come into the classroom of fresh air. And what that is it's brought in through an air handler on the roof, which, as you say, heats it, brings it to the classrooms, and then depending on the needs of the individual classroom, it's either heated or cooled more if that classroom's calling for heat or cooling, heat in the winter, cooling in the summer for that. So some older systems and systems like in the existing classroom building, they'll take air, distribute it to all the classrooms, then return some of it back to the air handler, just run it through the filters, and then send it back to the classrooms. It's not all fresh outside air that comes in each time. There's some that gets recirculated. So in theory, you could have air from one classroom end up being recirculated into other classrooms there. Whereas in the new edition, all of the air is not circulated between classrooms.
I understand. So it's all fresh air brought in through one central heating area to get
Correct.
warmer. I'm thinking February. I don't know why I'm thinking February when it's 80 degrees out, but I'm thinking about February. Then distributed to the classrooms and then vented out to the outside world somehow. And then new fresh air brought in warm.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically it returns back to the unit. It's what's called an energy recovery unit, and it will take whatever's left of the heat that's in the air, some of it out and through a energy recovery method, puts it back into the new air. So you're saving energy that way through the system.
I understand. So actually, ironically, it sounds like while people were originally concerned about the new Albany High building, that seems like it's pretty solid, but perhaps we might have a different issue with the existing Albany High building where we do have this older style system where air could be being circulated around.
Yeah, the air's definitely circulated around there, and you don't have operable windows in a lot of those classrooms because there are no windows in a lot of the classrooms.
I understand. Okay. Well, thank you very much. We will continue to ask questions about this as our potential reopening time gets closer, but it's certainly shifted my understanding of where the problem could potentially be. Anyone else questions about facilities? I know almost half the board serves on the facilities committee and they have an opportunity to ask you many questions when you're in committee, but anyone questions? Seeing none, we're going to let Mr. Peckham go on with his life and
Thank
move
you.
on.
Have a good evening.
My budget. Thank you, Mr. Peckham. Thank you, Mr. Dawes.
Thank you.
And on we go to the 2021 budget.
So good evening, Madam President, members of the board again. We are here to just kind of review what we have been presenting for our budget presentation. Ms. Roaring and I are happy to share out the information just to make sure that everyone is clear and then be able to facilitate any questions that you may have. We start with our guiding principles that even during these challenging times, we are still staying focused on our goals to ensure that we are aligning our dollars with what our goals are. And at this time, I'll turn it over to President Savage to give a little background and overview.
So board colleagues, I know that you are all highly, very, very familiar with this, but when I spoke with the superintendent, we decided we would do it the way we normally have been doing it for the town forums, the budget forums, because we know that some people tune into board meetings and not to the forums. So we would like them to have the opportunity to see this. And so what we've been doing at the budget forums is I've been doing this short introduction of some of the high points of the budget and then turning it over to the superintendent and the deputy superintendent to go through the details. So as I know all my colleagues know, one of the major things that was driving this budget was a significant decrease in enrollment, 5% over 2 years. This comes as quite a shock as we have had an increasing enrollment for many years prior to that. We, as always, have had increased expenses. Every year, expenses increase primarily because we really value our staff and we assure that their contract has an increase built into it every year. So by definition, our expenses increase. Also, as I know you all know very, very well, our state aid is much lower than was expected. Not only is it lower, it's lower than we expected in January when the governor released his executive budget. So it's not just lower than we thought, it's lower than we had been told. So that resulted in a drop in our expectations. Also, as I know we're all very tuned into, we have extremely limited reserve funds. Unlike a municipality like a town or a village that can carry over many percentages of their budget in their reserve funds, school boards by law can only take 4% with them into the next year. So it's like your entire life savings is 4% of whatever your annual income is, which is, I personally would not feel comfortable if that were my fiscal situation, but that is the way school districts are required to operate. As you all know, probably better than anybody else, COVID-19 has had a tremendous impact, not only on the operations of the district, as we've talked about many times tonight, but also on the process for budget development, right? Things did not happen this year the way they normally do, up to and including the vote is happening differently than it normally does, and beginning with the fact that the executive budget was not released, or the assembly budget was not released in the same way that we normally have it. As a result, as we all know, we have proposed a budget that includes significant reductions, both significant non-staffing reductions and significant staffing reductions. This is just a very difficult budget year. We did come up with a number that allowed us to restrict our tax increase to 1.96% tax levy, and that would set the cap of our spending to 261 point something, I don't remember the point something, $1 million next year. And if the voters will adopt this budget on June 9th, that will limit the district's spending to that amount. That 1.96 is just shy of 2%. This is our 7th year in a row of under 2% tax increases. I know we are all very cognizant of the discrepancy between property taxes between our city and our surrounding suburbs. Not only have we had 7 in a row under 2%, 2 of those 7s were under 1%, and 2 of them were zeros. And the 2 under 1%, I believe, were the 2 that were also fully rebated by the state. So essentially provided zeros for those years as well for our taxpayers. So it's been an extraordinarily difficult budget year, just process-wise and financially. And with those introductions, I turn it back over to the superintendent.
Thank you so very much, President Savage. Our projected budget has been developed in a manner which looks at what are the best ways that we can serve our students and our children despite the challenging budget concerns that we have now. We truly understand that the proposed budget calls for us to view the services we provide for our children and families in a very different way. And which may include a blended learning model, various scheduling options. We look to facilitate adjustments of the delivery instruction, meaning our programs and our wraparound services. And we also look to ensure that our funding allocations and resources are aligned to the needs of our children. Over the past several years, we have invested in professional development to address not only the academic needs of our children, but the social and emotional well-being and aspect of our children's development is also very important. As we move forward, we look to embed the practices while developing innovative strategies for wraparound services and support staff to address their roles differently and in a fiscally responsible manner. Our philosophy remains that as a district, we want to engage our learners in a robust educational program with equitable opportunities designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. At this time, I will turn it over to Deputy Superintendent Roaring, who will now share our 2020-21 Board of Education adopted budget.
This slide shows the 2019-20 adopted budget in that left-hand column that was approved by the voters last May. And then it shows in the middle the 2021 board approved budget that will go to the voters next Tuesday. And the final column shows the difference. So you can see the adjustments that were made in each of these significant categories. We had a reduction of a little over $4.4 million in salaries, followed by an increase of a little over $3.4 million in benefits. Other key drivers included our charter school tuition and out-of-district tuition, as well as our BOCES tuition and our increase in debt service for a total of $1.2 million. This shows our revenue by category. It does include a proposed property tax levy increase of 1.96 or $2.3 million. It also shares an increase in our interest, fees, and reimbursements of over $700,000, the state aid adjustment of a little over $1 million that was largely driven by expense-based aids, an increase in our use of restricted reserves, and a decrease in our appropriated fund balance of just shy of $2.4 million. This is an overall revenue increase of $1.2 million, or less than 0.5%. When we look at our budget increase drivers for the rollover budget that was presented back in February, our salaries due to contractual increases with our staff, substitute expenses, stipends, and overtimes for student activities was just shy of $5 million. Our benefit increases were anticipated to be just over $5 million, including a health insurance increase of approximately 7%. We had other increases in our utilities due to natural gas use and rate increases associated with each of those. Transportation from contractual and service increases, as well as our charter school tuition, out-of-district tuition that includes non-resident, private placement, parentally placed, and foster tuition. And then our BOCES tuition that includes special education and occupational education for a total of just over $15 million.
So as we look to balance our budget, we started with some of our non-staffing reductions, and that would look at contracted services, reduction in the discretionary funds for each of our buildings, looking at how we can do field trips in a different way. Other contracted services might include professional development and those types of things where we're looking to embed some of the practices even more so because we have invested quite a bit in our professional development. Looking at the expense of the NYU master's program. This is a program that we found beneficial because it takes our current employees who have a bachelor's degree and it puts them in a position where within the school year they could earn a master's degree in education. And so the expense of that program in working with NYU, we have a partnership where that expense will be at no cost to the district. And then the elimination of a school resource officer. After we looked at all of the non-staffing reductions, then we looked at our staffing reductions. And our process for determining which programs to combine or accelerate the embedded practice was based on the program integration capacity and professional development provided to administrators, faculty, and staff. And so we look at where we've done this work and the largest impact and scope of implementation of the instructional program and methodologies, as well as the efficiencies in support staff, and especially in the areas of maintenance and operations. And so when we look at that, you can see the areas that, due to the decreasing enrollment, we're looking at aligning those staffing ratios so that we're closer and very similar to the 2018-2019 school year. We looked at reductions in the general education classroom, reductions in instructional coaches, the second grade swim program, adjusting the elementary music program to begin at 4th grade, and then adjustments to the freshman sports, which allows our freshmen to participate at the JV level. The enrollment and staffing ratios for the current year, our staffing ratios are low, but next year our proposed staffing ratios at the classroom level is almost identical to last year, which would be the 2018-2019 school year, and is considerably better than previous years. We did have strong state aid last year, and due to that, we were able to add staff so that we could, even though we had fewer students, we were able to add staff so that we could facilitate more direct services and delivery models for our students. The proposed staffing reductions represent about 8% of the district's total workforce. So in terms of total workforce, our ratios as illustrated on this slide are proportionate across the employee groups relative to the current workforce in that particular employee group. When we look at our budget support overview for the 2021 school year, we're looking at those things that we are able to maintain. Our decisions have been grounded in trying to maintain the level of programming and services required to address the supports of our diverse students and community. Our budget proposal looks to adjust methodologies and enhance student achievement and the social and emotional well-being of our students and the delivery of quality instruction in a fiscally responsible manner. We are committed to maintaining the programs and practices listed here through embedded practices and shared services. We have ensured that our students with disabilities and our English language learners have the accommodations needed to modify assignments and the technological support through teleservices, telemedicine, teletherapy, and translators to better support their progress in both a traditional setting and an online platform. We continue to support the growth and development of our faculty and staff through culturally relevant teaching and learning practices, trauma-informed care, and restorative practices. The 2021 school year has many unknowns. The guidelines regarding reopening, social distancing, blended classrooms, online learning, and in-person gatherings, along with the cleaning and sanitization of our buildings, student attendance, transportation, athletics, and extracurricular clubs and activities will look differently for us as we approach the new year. But there is one aspect that is consistent, and that is our students. Addressing the diverse needs of all of our students will be at the forefront of our thoughts and the processes we develop while we balance accomplishing these goals with the social and emotional support for our students and families. At this time, Ms. Roaring will address the unknowns that we face moving forward.
In planning for our 2021 budget, we faced some significant unknowns that we've never addressed before. Those include the procedures and systems that we will need in place to welcome back our students and staff in the fall of 2020. Also, the potential reduction of state aid during the school year. The state budget afforded look-back periods. There are 3 of them. The last one concludes on December 31st. Should there be an inequity between the state's expenses and its revenue, the governor is allowed to put forward a reduction in aid. The legislature does have a chance to respond and develop its own plan, but should those 10 days pass, the governors would become effective. We know that those potential state aid changes are reported to be somewhere between 5 and 20%, which for Albany would be anywhere from $4 to $16 million of reduction in aid. Should the public not adopt the budget on June 9th, the board could forward a second budget vote at a cost of approximately $150,000. The executive order that's been provided around the budget vote this year did not include a timeline for a second vote. If a second vote were to fail or the board chooses not to put forward a second budget, we would go to a contingent budget. This would be an additional reduction of $2.3 million in revenue and expenditures. We would be focused on those expenses absolutely required to operate and maintain our schools. The only equipment purchases would be prohibited with the exception of instructional hardware for our students, and any outside building use could not occur at any expense to taxpayers. Those wishing to use our facilities would need to pay any such costs in full in advance of the date of the use of the building.
So what's important for our voters to know are the items that are on the ballot and then what the ballot looks like. And we have two propositions that are on the ballot. The first one is for the actual budget, and the second one is for acquiring for school operating needs property that is located near Delaware Community School. And so those two propositions are there for our voters. Next, we have one open seat for the Board of Education member, and there are three candidates on the ballot: Victor Kane, Hassan El-Minyawi, and Edith Leet. Each candidate's resume is available on our district website, albanyschools.org/candidates. And you may also listen to the June 3rd Board Candidates Forum on your YouTube channel, and the link is here listed on the slide for this presentation. In addition to the Board of Education member election, we also have the Albany Public Library trustee, and voters may vote on two of those candidates: Jessica Bellerin, Donna Dixon, Jeffrey Keller, Thomas McCarthy Jr., Catherine McNamara, James Monroe, Bridget Pryor. It's also important to note that Kwesi Burgess withdrew his nominating petition after the ballots were printed, so his name will show. However, he has withdrawn his name for the petition. We did talk about the voting process earlier, and so I will just go through a few of the highlights. That the ballots have been mailed, aside from the discussion that we had earlier in the meeting. If you are a registered voter and you have not received your ballot, please contact Tanya Bowie. And the number to our office is 518-475-6015. In most cases, no witness is needed when you sign your ballot if it is your full signature. However, a witness is necessary if you sign with a mark or an X. When there is not a full signature, then there will need to be a witness. Ballots must be returned to Academy Park by Tuesday, June 9th at 5 p.m. They can be hand delivered, or you may put them in the mail. Ballots received after 5 p.m. on June 9th may not be counted. Important information: the budget edition of Capital Education, which is our district's newsletter, has been mailed to every home. You may access that via our website. The line-by-line budget is available as well online. We have one more budget town hall meeting, which is this coming Saturday, June 6th, from 10 to 11 a.m. There is also an audio recording of our May 28th budget hearing, and that is available. And then the voting deadline, of course, is Tuesday, June 9th at 5 p.m. So at this time, I'd like to take a little detour before we get to questions, because we have something that we are very, very excited about, which is absolutely hot off the press and hot on the website. This is a tutorial to explain to our voters how to complete and return your ballot. And it is complete. It is a complete step-by-step view with directions to help voters understand what the ballot looks like when your ballot arrives. What are the things that you're going to see? How do you go about completing your ballot? Each step is highlighted. You can see the different propositions. You can also see the members of the board. You will be able to see the trustees for the public library. Sealing your ballot, when you look at that particular piece, you can see what that looks like, as well as signing the back of your sealed oath envelope. And this is where we were saying, if you have a full signature, there is no need for a witness. If you mark an X as your signature, it will need a witness. And then putting your oath envelope in the reply envelope, and then returning your ballot. So we're very excited that we have that. And there's a picture of Academy Park so that you can know what the building looks like as you get to One Academy Park. So at this time, we will open it up for questions.
Board colleagues, I know we've spent the better part of our lives on this for the last 2 months, so I think it's unlikely that you have actual questions about this material. But if you still do have a question, or if you think there's a point that needs to be better explained, we open the opportunity for you to share that information.
And I have a comment.
Go for it, Mr. Elmagnac.
So I know a few people might still be confused about the fourth grade music, but it was confirmed that we were able, the superintendent and cabinet was able to put that back into the budget. So there is fourth grade instrumental music, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. And I guess while I've got you here, my only other comment would be that just to let people know, we're looking at this $261 million budget. However, those numbers can things can be moved around in that context. So nothing is set in stone in terms of actual things that are budgeted from that $261 million.
So I want to clarify the actually set in stone and where that flexibility lies, because the balanced budget, I mean, numbers are finite to some extent. And so everything that has a dollar value, we have equated that with balancing our budget. However, there are different components that may happen that may change that and allow us flexibility. So for example, we do have our retirement incentives out for both our APSU and APSTA members. Based on the number of retirements that may come forward, that may then adjust some of the dollars so that then we may be able to bring back certain positions, which may be one-to-one, but it's not going to necessarily be one-to-one, because that position, while there may be several positions, it may not equate to a particular program. And so there are some intricacies with regard to that and some nuances as we look at that dollar amount, because if we have 5 retirees, that doesn't necessarily equate to 5 positions that would come back. We have to look at where that tenure position is, where that retiree is tenured, what's the staffing that's already there, does it impact a program? There are several components that are in place. So I don't want to mislead and say that everything is flexible, because there are some things that may not be, but we do have things that are in place right now that should we receive additional retirees, should we have additional resignations, it may free up certain positions that align with certain programs so that then we are able to bring those back. But it would not be a one-to-one match.
Very good. Thank you so much.
And of course, there's also flexibility within the budget, even outside of the question of retirements. If we would get a surprising executive order, which this year almost nothing would surprise me, that required us to provide some certain service that we had never provided before, and we needed therefore to shift our allocation of our staffing, we could and would have to do that. We are not committed to doing anything exactly the way it appears, because we know we need the operational flexibility to make changes as things change on the ground. Most
That is
particularly, the most likely thing that's going to happen is that we're going to have less money than we think, because either the budget does not pass, which of course we hope it will pass, and we believe in our voters that they are looking at our budget carefully and that they will agree that we have done the best we can under the circumstances, but it may not, and or there will be a reduction in state aid, which would impact us. One of those two things may happen, which would require us to make significant changes to our budget.
That is correct.
Anyone else have any commentary they want to share or thinking about the budget? If not, I think we have an opportunity tonight for committee reports. Anybody have a committee report? Dr. Chator pretty much gave his committee report. Public Policy Committee has met. Ms. Smith, did you want to share anything about facilities? We also pretty much got your committee report, didn't we?
Pretty much. We do have a meeting coming up, and I'm sorry because I didn't actually pull it right up. So I believe it's next week. I'm sorry. But if you give me a minute, I will look it up.
So the next, while Vicki looks that up, the next item on our agenda is the item called Other Business. I have one item of Other Business, but I'm happy to give other people a chance to go first. Anybody have an item of Other Business? Otherwise, I just wanted to let my colleagues know, as I think I have by email, that I'm going to be participating tomorrow in the NYSBA-hosted roundtable with the interim commissioner. So it'll be very interesting. I know our fine superintendent is serving on the reopening committee, but this is to talk about those same issues. And so it'll be interesting for me to hear it at that level as well. If there are specific reopening topics that you think might not otherwise be brought up, feel free to shoot me an email on those or raise them here, and I can raise them tomorrow at the roundtable. Ms. Smith, did you want to share your date?
Yes, thank you. And again, my apologies. I was so concentrated on other things on this agenda tonight that I forgot to look at my committee date. But the next meeting is currently scheduled for June 9th at 5:30, and we can assume that will continue to be a virtual meeting. So please look out for information on the web for how to access that meeting. And we'll note any changes there as well. Thank you.
Anybody else with items of other business? Otherwise, I know you want me to say the magic words, but I'm not going to say the magic words. I'm going to say the other words. The words are, I would like to entertain a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing matters pertaining to the employment of a particular person. May I have a motion, Ms. Smith? Seconded by Dr. Chator. All in favor of entering executive session? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't see hands. Unfortunately, I guess I'm going to have to get a roll call vote. Oh, I see a hand. Ms. Mann, are you voting yes? I can't see your hand.
Yes, I'm waving.
I know it's a lag. Oh, and I see Hassan's hand. So that is unanimous. Wonderful. Thank you all in the public for participating in this meeting. We are so happy that you were able to join us. The board will not be returning to public session. As soon as we adjourn the executive session, we will be adjourning the public meeting. So while you are welcome to stay here and watch the blank screen for the next little while we're in exec, it will not yield any positive results for you because we will not be doing anything except saying motion to adjourn at the end. Good night, everybody. I'll see people in exec in a few minutes and everybody else soon.